he indicated at the time that he felt it was a minor injury. But Royce Lewis, like you could be like in war with Royce Lewis and like see his bodiless head roll past you, and the head would turn to you, would smile, would say, "Hey man, how's it going? How's the family?" And then go, "I'll be ready for war tomorrow." Like that's how Royce Lewis works.
That's right. Yeah.
But even the Twins, who are a lot more realistic about his status. And he, by the way, he's aware of that. He's even taken to joking lately. Like, I know they don't trust me on this stuff, but I'll tell you what I think anyway. But even the Twins, they didn't give a timeline because they don't give timelines often. But they certainly made it clear that they didn't view this as anywhere near as substantial as the first one. And this week, I spotted him multiple days pregame when the weather abided, running in the outfield. He ran the bases then the last couple of days.
Well, I think we learned Friday after the last video podcast we did, or the last free podcast we did, that he was starting, quote unquote, a running progression this week. And apparently the running progression went well enough that he's at the point now where he can start playing. So
yeah, I saw him running the bases, which is always the last thing, because bases, you're running full speed, but you're also not running in a straight line. You're making cuts, you're making deceleration, acceleration, all that stuff. So that's a big thing. He's been hitting. He's been fielding, and so he checked all the boxes to the point that they were like, let's send him to St. Paul to start rehabbing. And, they haven't said what the timeline on the rehab is. When he came back from the moderate strain, the plan was for him to play like 10 or 12 games, but then weather wiped out half those. He ended up playing, 7 games or something like that before returning. And then we saw him struggle for several weeks before kind of getting back on track a little bit. He hasn't been down as long. He's been down 2 weeks only, and he's been able to hit and do some other things throughout that time. So I guess I would expect this to be a fairly brief rehab assignment, assuming it goes well. And I don't mean from like he needs to hit home run standpoint. I just mean assuming he runs the bases, assuming he ends up playing some third base, and he comes out of it each day and comes back the next day feeling pretty good. I would expect this to be, certainly single-digit rehab days. And it's possible he could, join the team. I don't think in Detroit this weekend, obviously, but it's possible he could join them at the end of the road trip, and certainly at the beginning of the next homestand, which is in, basically a week plus from now.
They've got an off day on Monday. Both the Saints and the Twins have an off day on Monday. Then the Twins are going to Miami. But the key there is that St. Paul's also going on the road on Tuesday. So unless he's going to go to Gwinnett and play some road games, which maybe he is.
What do you got against Gwinnett?
I got
lovely place.
I've never been to Gwinnett. I can't say a bad thing about Gwinnett. But unless he's going to be playing some road games in Gwinnett, which is just a less controlled environment than playing things in St. Paul, I wouldn't be shocked to see him playing the games in Miami.
Better weather though in Gwinnett, I'll tell you that.